After the real son came back, I became the disposable one. My sister, who already disliked me, started to truly hate me. I have never, not once, thought of you as my brother. The family that had once been so loving kicked me out. You should go back to your real parents. But I was abandoned. I had no home to go back to. The real son, smug, tossed a thick envelope of cash at my feet. Guess it's my lucky day you're dealing with a nice guy. I stumbled away, putting on a show of looking heartbroken for them. The second the mansion gates closed behind me, though, I was ecstatic. Finally, I'm free. I was completely cut off, but with a massive severance package from them. The world was my oyster. I immediately flew abroad and spent the next 6 months backpacking. I was living the dream, vacationing, staying in luxury spa resorts, and eating gourmet meals. The only downside was the hotel security was a joke. I woke up one morning to find myself tied up. A familiar figure stood before me, a strange glint in her eyes as she smiled. Have you been enjoying your little trip? It all started with a blood drive. My parents were both type A, but I was type B. I knew this day would come. The day the real son showed up, and I, the fake one, would be thrown out. And now it was happening. This real son sauntered into our house, waving a paternity test he'd gotten from God knows where. The evidence on the page was stark. He was my parents' biological child, which made me, without a doubt, the imposter. He had bleached blonde hair and wore a pair of worn-out slides. The moment he saw my parents, he dropped his knees. "Mom, Dad, I finally found you," he wailed, tears and snot streaming down his face for free. It was so moving I almost cried myself. My parents took the report, not entirely convinced, but they still helped the kid up. Looking at a face that shared some of their features, my mom asked softly, "Son, what's your name?" The blonde kid sniffled, choking back a sob. "My name is Ryan Miller." My parents repeated the name and then smiled. "It's a good name, a very good name." But then they added, "You wouldn't mind. If we went to the hospital for another test, would you?" Ryan nodded, flashing a few teeth stained yellow from smoking. "Not at all." With that, my parents led him out the door. I didn't go. I started packing my things. Better to be prepared. A few minutes later, I heard a shout from outside. "Mom, Dad, I think I left my phone inside. I'll go grab it." Ryan reappeared, but he didn't look for a phone. Instead, he shot me a defiant glare. "Your good life is about to end. If you know what's good for you, you'll get out of here." I was genuinely confused. I hadn't done anything to him. So what was with the attitude? It wasn't TMY's fault his life had sucked until now. I was the one who'd been abandoned by my birth parents and left in an orphanage before the Scotts adopted me. This wasn't some cheesy TV drama where the nanny secretly swaps her baby with the rich family's heir. Coming after me was just weird. He kept glaring, so I decided to respond in kind. Puff. I let out a fart as a show of force. The smell sent Ryan staggering backward. "God, that stinks. What did you eat for lunch?" I calmly recall my meal. Let's see. A burrito with extra black beans, grilled onions, and a whole lot of garlic sauce. His face went pale with rage, and he turned and bolted for the door, tossing a final threat over his shoulder. "You're finished when I get back." Hearing that, I called out urgently, "Wait." "Heh, scared now are you, WHOA?" He slipped and fell flat on his back. I sighed. "I was just trying to tell you that tile, right? There is really slippery. You should watch your step." He scrambled up angrily, but then he saw my parents approaching in the distance and started wailing. "Mom, Dad, I'm okay. It's just I think Julian's in a bad mood." I get it, really. Listening to his passive-aggressive routine, I was speechless. Looking at the distance between us, I thought, were you Usain Bolt? I glanced at my parents. They both sighed, looking tired, and helped Ryan up. We saw the whole thing. Ryan's pitiful act faltered, and his face turned bright red. "Oh, that. I was just, joking around. You believe me, right?" My parents exchanged a look, then gave an awkward laugh. "Maybe. Let's not tell those kinds of jokes anymore. You could get hurt." Mortified, Ryan hurried away. I just sighed and went back to packing my things. The only person you can ever truly rely on is yourself. With the power of money, the new test results came back quickly. Sure enough, Ryan Miller was my parents' biological son, the true heir to the Scott family fortune. When they heard the news, my parents' faces lit up with joy. Even my older sister, Victoria, the Ice Queen CEO who was always too busy at the office, rushed home after getting their call. She stared at the paternity report with a look of delighted surprise. Everyone gathered around Ryan, celebrating. Watching Victoria smile, it hit me that what's fake can never be real. I hadn't seen her smile like that in years. Whenever she looked at me, her expression was always cold. It wasn't always like that. Victoria and I were close when we were kids. We're only 2 years apart. After all, we ate together. She'd share her snacks with me, and she'd even eat the carrots I hated. She'd snatch me from our parents' arms and treat me like her personal doll, promising to protect me from monsters. We played everywhere, leading a pack of neighborhood kids in hide-and-seek and video games. We walked to school together, and she'd hold my hand, telling me to stay close. Even when she moved up to middle school, she'd take a detour just to walk me to my elementary school gate. If I got bullied, she was the first to drag me over to confront the kid. Even if the other boy was taller and stronger, she'd fight until he apologized. But as she got older, she changed. She became distant, cold. She'd bang on the bathroom door to hurry me up when I was in the shower, even though there were other bathrooms in the house. She'd walk in while I was brushing my teeth with a look of pure disgust on her face. If someone asked if I was her brother, she'd deny it like they had accused her of something vile. When she saw the people making fun of me, she'd just stay silent and walk away. I thought it was just a phase, a teenage thing, but it started her junior year of high school and never stopped, continuing right through college and into her career. We barely spoke more than a few words at home, and I always felt her icy gaze on me. At first, I didn't know why. It wasn't until I learned I wasn't her real brother that it all made sense. She must have known for a long time. She hated me for taking her brother's place, for enjoying a life that should have been his. That had to be the reason for the drastic change. But I get it. Some people value the years they spend with you. Others value the blood that runs in your veins. Neither is right or wrong. It's best when you can balance both, but favoring one over the other is understandable. No one can be perfectly impartial. I think I'm lucky. Even though I was an orphan, I was fortunate enough to be adopted by my parents. I had a loving family, and even though my sister grew to resent me, I could understand why. I lived a comfortable life, never worrying about food or money. I was able to attend one of the best universities in the country and am about to finish my master's degree. I'm incredibly fortunate. I've seen kids who had to drop out of school early because of family problems. They weren't any less smart than me. They just didn't get the same chances. I've seen people who went down the wrong path because they had no one to guide them, no stable environment to grow up in. So yes, I'm lucky. Being orphaned was a misfortune, but it was also a stroke of luck that this family found me. Even if they resent me now, even if they want me to step aside for their biological son, I can accept it. After all, I'm a grown man now. I have my own 2 feet to stand on. Once spring semester ends, I'll have my master's and can find a good job. I'm 6 feet tall and can take care of myself. I haven't needed anyone's help in a long time. And if words don't work, I've got years of kickboxing under my belt. So, what more could I possibly ask for? Mom, Dad. Overcome with emotion, Ryan dropped to his knees again, his face a mess of tears and sincerity. My parents rushed to help him up, their own faces beaming. Son, get up. It must have been so hard for you all these years. My parents couldn't hold back their tears either. The 3 of them hugged, comforting each other. Then, my mom wiped her eyes and waved me over. Julian, come here. This is your younger brother. Technically, I was 2 months older than Ryan, so it made sense for him to call me his older brother. Ryan stiffened for a second, then stepped forward and pulled me into a hug, shouting loudly, "Brother!" But at the same time, he whispered in my ear, "Don't get too comfortable. I'll have you out of here sooner or later." He squeezed my waist hard. I grunted, then wrapped my arms tightly around his neck, shouting back with equal enthusiasm, "It's so great to finally meet you, little bro. We're going to have a great life together. We'll make up for everything you've missed." I looked over his shoulder and saw his face turning red, veins starting to pop on his forehead as he struggled for air. Before he could make a sound, I let him go. I turned to my parents with a huge smile. Looks like he's just a little overwhelmed with emotion. His face is all flushed. My parents were thrilled, taking both of our hands. "You are both my children. It doesn't matter who's biological and who isn't." "Of course, right, little bro?" I grinned at Ryan. He was still trembling from the lack of oxygen and swallowed hard, unable to expose what I'd just done. "Haha, yeah, right?" he gasped. My parents were happy. Victoria, however, was not. She stood off to the side, staring at me with that same cold expression, lost in thought. I figured she was probably trying to come up with the best way to kick me out. Don't worry, I thought. When the time comes, I'll see myself out. Time passed, and Ryan began to settle into the family. Despite the bleached hair and the initial impression that he was a good-for-nothing, he turned out to be surprisingly well-behaved. He even knew how to cook, having apparently gone to culinary school after high school. He was pretty good at it, too. The food he made was delicious. The story of how the real son was lost was a typical one. It was a kidnapping. He was just over 2 years old, playing outside. In the blink of an eye, a kidnapper snatched him. In those days, investigative techniques were limited, and there weren't cameras on every corner like there are today. The kidnappers ducked into alleys, fled to remote towns, and disappeared into the mountains, and the child was gone for good. My parents were devastated. They lost interest in work in life. Their days were spent posting missing person flyers and asking everyone if they'd seen their son. They went to the police, to newspapers, to TV stations. They looked everywhere. Nothing. It was as if fate was playing a cruel joke on them. Just as they were about to lose all hope, they visited an orphanage and found me, abandoned. Filled with a new kind of anger. How could any parent do such a thing? They saw me the child they were desperately searching for, the one someone else had thrown away. Out of compassion, or perhaps because I reminded them of their lost son, they adopted me. And just like that, I became the family's replacement son. Victoria was just a little girl then. When her parents brought me home, they were afraid of upsetting her, so they never told her that her real brother was missing. When she saw me for the first time, she shouted with joy, "My baby brother's back." My parents exchanged a glance and went along with it. Yes, this is your brother. And so, I truly became the substitute. In Victoria's heart, I was the real thing. Until the lie finally fell apart. Even though Ryan was trying so hard to win everyone over, there was still one person, besides me, who didn't like him. My younger sister, Chloe. "I don't trust that guy," she told me. "He acts all nice, but I bet he's a total snake." I was touched. I couldn't believe she was still on my side through all of this. Chloe is the youngest in the family, for years younger than me. For some reason, she's always been incredibly attached to me. She was a crybaby when she was little, always wailing. No one could calm her down, but the moment I held her, she'd stop crying, her big, round eyes staring up at me. Then her chubby little hands would wave as she giggled. Just like I was Victoria's shadow as a kid, Chloe became mine. I held her hand, ate with her, played with her, and walked her to school. She's a college student now, poised and beautiful, just as striking as Victoria. She may lack some of Victoria's maturity, but she has a youthful energy that's all her own. At home, the family had split into two factions, Victoria and Chloe, who were constantly at odds. Despite the 6-year age gap, they argued frequently. Whenever Chloe was clinging to me, Victoria's glare would become even more piercing, as if to warn me, "Remember your place." Chloe would always glare right back. And so it went, year after year as we grew up. When they argued, Victoria would call her a little brat, and Chloe would shoot back with old hag. An argument was sure to follow, and I would grab Chloe and make a run for it. Chloe was right. Ryan was waiting for the right moment, planning something big to take me down in one fell swoop. He knew my parents were kind people and wouldn't just throw me out on the street, even if I wasn't their real son. He wasn't like some brain-dead villain from a bad novel. After our initial sparring session, he knew I wasn't an easy target. To get rid of me, he had to make it a knockout blow, something I could never recover from. I have to admit, the guy was ruthless. I never expected him to go this far. His first step was to build an image of himself as capable and kind. He was diligent around the house, and knowing his strength was cooking, he'd prepare elaborate dinners that amazed my parents. But he knew that wasn't enough. People get tired of the same food. He needed something that would make my parents truly accept him. So, he decided to go to college. He had only finished high school, which was better than they'd expected. Now, his desire to get a degree, to better himself so he wouldn't embarrass them, deeply moved my parents. They threw money at the problem, and he started attending prep courses, studying day and night. Until, "You know, son, maybe we should just forget it. We just want you to be happy. We can support you." The report card in front of him was covered in bright red, single-digit scores that stung his eyes. My parents' words were like a hammer, driving the nails of his failure deeper into his heart. Ryan refused to give up. "One more time," he declared. A short while later, the new report card was even worse. The scores were so low he couldn't even look at them. My parents covered their faces, unable to watch. Victoria, Ivy League PhD, now the young and successful CEO of the family company. Me, Julian, about to graduate with a master's from one of the top universities in the country. Chloe, an undergrad at that same top university. Ryan, the record holder for dropping from double-digit scores to single digits. "It's not your fault, son," my parents said, trying to find the right words. "You're a great cook, right? Maybe you could pursue that. We could help you open a restaurant chain." Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes. It was hard to tell if it was from gratitude or humiliation. He stumbled out of the room and slammed his bedroom door. We could hear muffled sobs from inside. Maybe he wasn't unintelligent. With parents as brilliant as ours, he must have inherited some good genes. But his upbringing had been so different that he just couldn't catch up in such a short time. That plan failed, but it didn't weaken his resolve. The effort he put into studying had at least earned him some goodwill with my parents. The kid doesn't give up easily, they thought. That's a good quality. Of course, that wasn't enough. His goal was to get me kicked out. The easiest way to do that was to ruin my reputation. So, without my knowledge, rumors started circulating that I was fooling around with multiple female students at school. The stories even included a 60-year-old professor. Ryan never said it directly, of course, but he found ways for these rumors to reach my parents' ears. It doesn't matter if a rumor is true. What matters is what the listener believes. My parents called me into the study, their faces grim. Ryan stood to the side, smirking and trying to hide his glee. He kept comforting them, saying, "Mom, Dad, don't be angry, just talk to him." Then he turned to me. "Julian, don't blame them. They're just worried about you." I gave him a look, then turned to my parents. "It's true. I did it all." Ryan's jaw dropped. He never expected me to just admit it. But my parents just chuckled. "Julian, you're such a kidder. We trust you, son." As Ryan stared in disbelief, my parents pulled me aside and whispered conspiratorially, "So, which one do you actually like? You can tell us." My dad added with a grin, "Although the 60-year-old, we might have to think about that one. Will we call her our daughter-in-law or—" Chloe, who was listening from the doorway, burst out laughing. Ryan looked like his brain had short-circuited. Victoria's brow furrowed. "Mom, Dad, are you just going to let him get away with this? What if he's really hurting these girls?" she said sternly. It was clear how much she disapproved of me. I just smiled tiredly. My parents laughed it off. He wouldn't. Victoria shot me a look that screamed, "I'm watching you. One slip up, and I'll have you thrown out." I sighed. Why did everything have to be so dramatic? After that setback, Ryan was down but not out. He was brewing a much bigger plan. One day, the whole family went out. We had dinner, saw a movie, and went to an amusement park. That evening, as we were about to head home, we were waiting at a crosswalk for the light to change. The street was packed with cars. At some point, Ryan had moved next to me. While no one was paying attention, he leaned in to say something, then casually grabbed my hand. He made it look like I had shoved him, stumbling dramatically off the curb and into the flow of traffic. For a heart-stopping second, it looked like he was about to be hit. Thankfully, the driver slammed on the brakes just in time. The guy got out of his car, cursing, and glared at us. Ryan looked terrified, tears welling in his eyes. His arm and leg were scraped and bleeding. He looked like a fragile flower, battered but bravely standing tall. He pushed himself up and apologized profusely to the driver, taking all the blame. Then he turned to me, my parents, Victoria, and Chloe, tears in his eyes but a faint smile on his lips. I'm okay. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. I didn't mean to worry you." The look in his eyes was a perfect mix. 20% fear, 30% self-blame, and 50% resilience. An Oscar-winning actor couldn't have done it better. Spielberg would have taken one look and said, "Now that is real talent." Well, I thought I'm screwed. Surely my parents wouldn't be that stupid. Would I really be dumb enough to push him in front of everyone in broad daylight? Did that even seem plausible? Turns out, back at home, it was perfectly plausible. Victoria was the first to attack. "Julian, what do you have to say for yourself?" I looked at her like she was an idiot. "What do you think?" Furious, she turned to my parents. "Mom, Dad, I propose we remove Julian from our family's legal registration." Wow, such a delicate way of putting it. Just say you want to kick me out. I thought my parents would defend me. But I turned and saw them look at Victoria, then sigh. Don't regret this, my dad said to her, then turned to me. Julian, we're so sorry. We're going to have to ask you to leave. I was stunned. They were serious. My sister wasn't having it. Her eyes were red as she screamed. You're all heartless. My brother would never do something like that. She pointed at Ryan, her voice shaking with rage. It was obviously him. He did it on purpose to get rid of Julian. Are you all blind? Her shouting had no effect, except to make her own tears flow faster. I felt a surge of warmth and patted her arm gently. It's okay, Chloe. It's okay. Then I looked at my parents. I agree. They said nothing. I sighed, knelt on the floor, and bowed my head deeply 3 times. Thank you for raising me. For everything. After the third bow, I stood up and grabbed a suitcase I'd already packed. They all looked shocked that I was so prepared. Chloe was sobbing. If Julian goes, I'm going too. I don't want to be in this family anymore. My parents looked like they wanted to say something. Even Victoria had a strange expression on her face. And Ryan, why did Ryan have tears in his eyes? I couldn't tell if they were happy to see me go or just upset by Chloe's outburst. It didn't matter anymore. I'd already lived a very fortunate life. The rest of it was mine to plan. They removed me from the family trust quickly. Money makes things easy. I had saved a good amount myself over the years. Chloe cried and clung to me, not wanting me to leave, even trying to follow me out. I had to stop her. If you follow me, I'll never speak to you again. It was a childish threat, but for her it was the worst thing I could say. She had a better future here. As angry as I was at Victoria and my parents, I knew they weren't stupid enough to hand the company over to Ryan. I was confident about that. Here, a little something out of the goodness of my heart. Ryan smugly shoved a debit card into my hand. I took it without hesitation. Pride, dignity, this had nothing to do with that. Why wouldn't I take it? Only an idiot would refuse free money. Well, I'm leaving now. I looked back at the people in the mansion, at the place that held so many of my memories, then turned and walked out the gate without looking back. Behind me, I could hear my sister's heartbreaking sobs. The first thing I did was go to the bank. I checked my savings. Nice. Looking at the long string of zeros on the screen, I smiled. I then checked the card Ryan gave me. He hadn't been cheap. He'd even thoughtfully taped the pin to the back. With all that cash, I took my luggage and found a beautiful place to live in a scenic mountain town. It had hot springs, a pool, and was just a short walk from a bustling downtown. I was perfectly happy. The only problem was Victoria, who kept showing up to provoke me, to get under my skin, and then would just crash at my place and refuse to leave. She'd bring me gourmet breakfasts to tempt me, wear revealing swimsuits to drive me out of my own pool, and constantly ask for my opinion on clothes for some new boyfriend she claimed to have. Because she had been good to me when we were kids, I put up with it. The good memories balanced out the more recent, infuriating ones. I was annoyed but not hateful. But then they all started treating my new home like a resort. Chloe was there every day, clinging to me. The verbal sparring between her and Victoria gave me a constant headache. My parents, probably feeling guilty, would show up pretending to be on vacation just to check on me. And that kid, Ryan, probably high on his victory, started appearing too, always with a smug, obnoxious grin. Fine. If I can't have peace here, I'll find it somewhere else. I decided to leave the country. It was time for a real break. To avoid any more soap opera plot twists, the real son trying to frame me again, the parents wringing their hands in regret. I booked a flight, got a new phone, and prepared to disappear. I just hoped to God none of that would follow me. Everything was set. The only thing I forgot was how resourceful some people could be. Well, hello there. You look familiar. Sitting a few rows ahead of me on the plane was a girl in a white dress and sunglasses. It was Chloe. She looked back at me and grinned. Well, look at you, handsome. Fine. For the compliment, you can come. We traveled the world, visiting countless countries. Amsterdam, Iceland, New York, Las Vegas, South Korea, Japan, Singapore. You name it. We went skiing, visited real-life anime locations in Japan, saw the Eiffel Tower, floated through the canals of Venice, marveled at Yellowstone, and watched the Northern Lights in Iceland. Chloe was attached at the hip. Knowing I wasn't her biological brother didn't make her back off. It made her even more shameless. I just sighed and let her do her thing. We went everywhere, rode wild horses, crossed vast plains, trekked through deserts, and explored the ancient ruins of Egypt. Chloe never seemed to tire of it. She was a constant ball of positive energy. "How are you always so happy?" I asked her one day. "Because I'm with you, Julian," she said. "When you're by my side, I'm happy." I was speechless. My very existence was the source of someone else's happiness. What an honor. In South Korea, we stumbled upon a K-pop concert. In the middle of the screaming crowd, Chloe yelled, "He's not even 1/10 as handsome as my brother." Thankfully, nobody there understood English. We drifted like dandelion seeds, floating aimlessly from one place to the next, finally landing in a seaside hotel in Singapore. We explored, ate incredible food, and had a great time, until Chloe got a call from her professor reminding her about final exams. Reluctantly, she had to fly back. Suddenly, I was alone, and for the first time in a while, I felt the pang of loneliness. That night, after dinner and a shower, I lay back on the huge, soft bed. Life is good, I thought. I still have so much time to experience everything, the good and the bad. No matter what happens, I just want to live it to the fullest. With that thought, I drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, something felt wrong. My limbs were heavy, and I felt like I was tied down. I opened my eyes and saw a different ceiling. This wasn't my hotel room. "You're awake." A familiar voice. I turned my head toward the sound. Oh crap, it was her. Victoria, wearing a long black dress, glided toward me. Her smile was bewitching, and a shiver of dread went down my spine. I'd only ever seen that smile when we were little kids. "What is going on?" I struggled against my restraints. Victoria came closer and pressed down on my arm, stilling my movements. She traced a finger along my cheek, her expression rapturous. "I'm finally going to have you." I was completely lost. "What are you talking about?" But she explained everything. I guessed that the victor's prerogative to gloat, like a villain monologuing over the defeated hero. She told me she had always been in love with me. "Then why were you so awful to me for all those years?" was the obvious question. She had an answer for that, too. At first, she thought it was just sisterly affection. But as she hit puberty, those feelings blossomed into something else. She realized, with horror, that it wasn't familial love she felt for me. It was romantic love. But how could that be? Our relationship made it forbidden. She was torn, struggling with her feelings. She didn't know how to face me, so she chose distance and coldness, constantly terrified she would lose control and do something to hurt me. But emotions aren't so easily suppressed. She confessed she'd had moments where she wanted to sneak into my room at night, but her rational mind always stopped her. The internal conflict drove her crazy. She finally decided that if she couldn't get rid of her feelings, she would make me hate her instead, hoping it would kill the love she felt. That's why she mocked me, why she denied I was her brother, why she stood by silently when others made fun of me. Though she admitted she always dealt with the bullies later in private. She was fighting a war inside herself. And then, one day, Ryan showed up. She learned we weren't related by blood. She was overjoyed, but the damage was done. How could she undo years of cruelty? And what if I didn't feel the same way? If she confessed and I rejected her, I might run away for good. They say love makes you stupid. For an arrogant, emotionally constipated genius like Victoria, it was a catastrophic drop in IQ. So she came up with a plan. Get me kicked out of the family, severing our official ties so the world would know we weren't siblings. Then she would slowly get close to me again, rebuilding our relationship not as family, but as a man and a woman. And that's how we ended up here. After hearing all that, I could only think one thing. This is completely insane. 11. Victoria leaned in and kissed me. I couldn't dodge, couldn't escape. I was powerless. She whispered in my ear, her voice soft and hypnotic. Just leave the rest to me. My head felt fuzzy. Crap, she must have drugged me. I'm so screwed, I thought as my consciousness faded away. That night, I had a dream. I dreamed we were kids again, eating grapes. We'd peel back the dark skin to reveal the beautiful, translucent fruit inside. They were so sweet. When I woke up again, every muscle in my body ached. I heard Chloe's voice. "Julian, you're finally awake? It's all that evil woman's fault." Chloe threw herself into my arms, and my body felt like it was about to fall apart. I stroked her hair, noticing that her scent was incredibly familiar, like I had just smelled it moments ago. I glanced to the side and saw Victoria sitting quietly in a chair, saying nothing. What the hell happened? I looked at Chloe, confused. She turned and ordered Victoria around. Go get my brother something to eat. Victoria looked at me with longing, then at Chloe with a mix of jealousy and resentment. But she got up and left to prepare some food. Chloe looked back at me, a triumphant, smug expression on her face. Apparently, while I was out, some kind of deal had been struck. When the food came, Chloe fed me. Victoria watched, looking like she wanted to say something, her hand reaching out and then pulling back. I was the one who raised Julian, she muttered under her breath. It should be me. Her muttering earned her a sharp glare from Chloe. Later, as I was resting, I vaguely heard them talking. Quiet, you'll wake him up. What about what you promised me? Don't even talk, Victoria. If I hadn't gotten back when I did, you would have. Like you can talk. You're the one who got to him first. Hey, that's what you get for being a coward. You should have just told him you liked him years ago. Learn from me. See how much he loves me. Oh, please. All you do is cling to him. And it works, doesn't it? They started bickering again. I decided it was best to keep my eyes shut and my mouth closed. The things I was hearing were blowing my mind. Fragments of memory started to surface. Chloe's triumphant shouts from inside the room. Victoria's quiet sobs from just outside the door. 12. We stayed there together for a long time, traveling, exploring, and eating. Victoria finally loosened up. Chloe had her fun. I suffered. When we'd had our fill of traveling, we returned home. My parents were waiting for us at the door. The moment they saw me, they burst into tears. We're so sorry, son. We never meant to. It was just. I helped them up. I knew. It was Victoria's insane idea. After all, a huge sum of money had been deposited into my bank account every month since I'd left. I knew who it was from. I looked at Victoria. She sheepishly avoided my gaze and apologized to me and my parents. It was my fault. We all sighed, and then we all started laughing. Just then, we heard a cough from behind us. Ryan walked out. He was supporting two frail, elderly people. I'm so sorry, he cried, dropping to his knees and bowing his head to the ground over and over. The old couple tried to kneel too, but I stopped them. I had already looked into it. They were Ryan's adoptive parents. They had been seriously ill, and Ryan had sold everything he owned, but still couldn't cover the medical bills. That's why he showed up at the DNA test. If it hadn't been for that, he probably never would have come looking for his biological family. His adoptive parents were kind people who had sponsored other children's educations. He loved them dearly. To him, the life they shared was what truly mattered. When he came to our family, he saw how well my parents treated me, but he desperately needed the money. He had no idea how much the treatment would cost and worried that my presence as the fake son would make him, the real son, seem worthless. He was afraid my parents would come to resent him and kick him out before he could get the money to save his adoptive parents. So, in a twisted act of desperation, he came up with his plan. The driver in the street had been paid off. It was all staged. He never knew that my parents were in on it the whole time, playing along with Victoria's scheme. Money had already been wired to his adoptive parents, and they were receiving the best medical care. I'm despicable. I'm a horrible person. I'm scum, he sobbed, slapping his own face until it was red and swollen, tears streaming down his cheeks. His adoptive parents were crying too, blaming themselves. Seeing this, I sighed. I won't press charges, but you're not getting off scot-free. I sentenced him to perform 100 substantial acts of kindness. I would be checking his progress, and there would be penalties for failing. He cried and laughed at the same time, nodding, his forehead already bleeding. I sighed again. What a mess. If everyone had just been honest from the start, none of this would have happened. Years later, I brought it up again. You guys agree, right? I looked over at Victoria and Chloe, their bellies swollen and round. They heard my question and smiled brightly. Yes, dear, we agree. See, I was right. They agreed.